Hey everyone, it's Alex, and welcome to this Marvel Snap OTA video. We're going to be discussing the latest balance update to hit Marvel Snap, and it's quite a doozy, but not from like a number of cards perspective. This is actually one of the smaller OTAs we've had in a while. We got the zombies being buffed, we have a major meta shaker getting nerfed, and then we have some tech cards being adjusted, and finally some new cards and no one's playing getting buffed. So there's a lot to talk about, and it's going to have a pretty legitimate impact on the meta, but size-wise, it's relatively small. So no surprise Pikachu thumbnail faces here. But what I will tell you, though, is that the Horde changes are significant. And we're going to be talking about Zombie Scarlet Witch. And just to kind of flash you here, we do have Zombie Giant Man being buffed as well. Both of them seeing very significant buffs. Let's talk about each of the cards, and then we'll discuss the Zombie Horde as a whole. First of all, you have Zombie Scarlet Witch. It was running an absolutely atrocious run rate, 45%, 12% meta share. This is post-infinite early stats. This season. We do have a 3-2 card changing into a 3-4, which is a very significant buff. The text does remain the same, but this is huge, especially since in my experience with the Horde was often getting to like decent power lines. However, the Zombie Scarlet Witch location was like thrown out the window. Like you just weren't winning it. And so as a result, this gives it a lot more staying power, especially when you consider like the way you're playing right now with like Angelas and Zombie Scarlet Witches and Kitty Prides, and like that location now with that extra 2 power might actually be able to favorably trade. Okay, so that is a good thing. A lot of extra power here. And the buffs continue with Zombie Giant Man going from a 5-3 to a 5-4, so a baseline power increase. But the text actually changes as well. On reveal, Horde +1 turns into on reveal Horde +2, which is important for Zion to Zombie Man. I almost did it again. Every single video I produce about these zombies, I mess up all their names, and I guess this is no different. Zombie Giant Man, on reveal Horde +2, and then it gains the power of the Horde. So not only does it have +1 here, you added +1 here. The Horde's going to get a +2. The way I said that was so confusing. You know what I mean, right? They got it's one additional from the old version. So your Horde gets +2, and then that extra power does get applied to the Zombie Giant Man. So it's a pretty significant buff here. Like these are massive buffs, and you have the Hunger in the game mode. You have the Zombie Sentry coming out as well. You have Mr. Fantastic zombie version, which just came out. Again, can't say these names properly apparently. So now we have a much more rounded impression of what perhaps the Horde is capable of, with the exception of the Zombie Sentry, who is probably not bad. And the key thing about Zombie Sentry too is it gives you a fallback if you don't draw Scarlet Witch and you have the Mr. Fanta and you have your other generators, and suddenly you might actually have a decent enough Horde to, bounce your Zombie Giant Man off of. But let's start with Zombie Scarlet Witch here. Significant buff, especially considering that you're trying to use Kitty Prides and stuff like that to generate the value for the Horde. And I had suggested on a recent video in the Zombie Mr. Fantastic video, I'm like, it's going to get buffed. And I was surprised that... Am I surprised it got buffed this fast? Not really. I did call that it was probably going to happen this Thursday, and I swear I didn't actually know this was happening. After I produced the video, they gave us the notes, and I was like, I was right. But I did say that it was either going to be a 2-drop, which probably would have been way too OP, or a 3-4, and it looks like they went to the 3-4 range. And it makes sense, because the win rate is absolutely atrocious. Horde is not worth playing, and like the weekend missions were an absolute just slog to get through. And this is one of the comments I heard over and over again, man, these weekend missions suck, because the Horde sucks, right? And so I still think that Zombie Scarlet Witch is the keystone card for this archetype. It's unlikely you're going to be building a Horde deck without Zombie Scarlet Witch. This extra 2 power is very significant. And so as a result, this was a great place to start. Because listen, is it going to be OP? Possibly once we get all the tools, once the Hunger's in your hands, when Zombie Sentry's in your hands. We have Mr. Fanta now available. And they're going to be keeping an eye on it. Like they said that. This might be an overreaction, but they're going to be keeping an eye on it, especially as all the tools come out, because the original stat lines were based on their internal testing where they had all the tools available to them. And this is one of the challenges of releasing this staggered release schedule with a thematic month. You get situations like this where it starts off weak and maybe it ramps up later on. No way of knowing until we get there. But I do think this was a prudent change, and honestly, it was needed. I know you could say, oh, they're selling Season Pass cards, but seriously, the Horde sucked. Zombie Scarlet Witch sucked. It needed it. And again, I do appreciate that the Zombie Giant Man gets this additional floor, works better with the Horde. And again, with the Horde +2 here, it also removes the chance of like, oh, I didn't draw Zombie Scarlet Witch, my whole plan's dead. So it's like, no, now that you have, Zombie Sentry or, whatever, Mr. Fanta, there's opportunities now where like the Horde might be a serviceable number to drop as a 5-drop, for Zombie Giant Man. It gives you an extra out. And I do think that's very important. I actually enjoy the Horde mechanics. I think they're fun. I think they're unique. And I think it's beneficial to have an archetype in Marvel Snap that's relatively unique. It's a new way to play Snap. And we're not getting, based on the leaks that have come out, at least, anyways, the data mines and stuff like that, we're not getting any more support for the Zombie Horde as of now, right? So we want these cards to hold their own, at least for a little bit. Because if they don't, then this is an archetype that's just going to sit in limbo forever and probably not see play. So I do like these changes. I do appreciate that they're saying they can keep an eye on them, just like they've kept an eye on End of Turn. End of Turn is mad cringe. It's been near the absolute top of the meta for the longest time. It has been one of the most popular decks in the meta. It has been one of the most popular high infinite decks. It's been one of the most popular decks to get towards infinite. And playing it feels extremely non-interactive, especially what they're capable of on turn 6. They play down Invisible Woman. They play down, their Jocasta. And then they just hit you with a, Thena Havoc turn 6, and then they just like rip like crazy, right? And you're like, okay, sick. This was a fun game. It feels like Hella. Remember old school Hella, where it was like so uninteractive, and like even if you played your best, and it was just like, oh look, they're just big cards, are dropping everywhere, total RNG. This is a very enjoyable experience. That's what this feels like a little bit, except it's not RNG, and they legitimately just play the cards down and just ramp like crazy, right? And I still disagree with what they did to Havoc. Yes, they took some of the height off Havoc with these specific decks, but they killed the Agent Havoc version. Like, Agent Venom Havoc was totally fine, totally fair, a great deck to play, and you took it out because of this end of turn cringe. But yes, this is a significant nerf, but it had to happen. 2 power off of the Invisible Woman. But what's crazy is like the ceiling on these decks is still very high. But you're starting to chip away at a lot of the power. Right? You took power off Fantastica. You take power off Invisible Woman. You took power off the ramping capabilities of Havoc. You actually took a power off of Sunspot too, right? So there's a lot that's been happening over the last little bit for end of turn. This had to happen. This deck is too prevalent, and it's too uninteractive. It sucks to play against. It really does. And you can say, well, Alex, there's Ghost. Yeah, sure. But like, it kind of sucks too. Like, I don't want to play Ghost. And Ghost doesn't hit Invisible Woman, you know what I mean? It hits the end of turn cards. Yes, that's cool. But like, they're still playing, they could still theoretically play like Thena Havoc and win lanes on turn 6. And you'd have to like, you know what I mean? It's still not great. Like, it's still not great. So long story short, I'm glad that they're looking at Invisible Woman, keeping an eye on end of turn, because it has been too meta dominant. And I'm just glad it's being toned down a bit, because quite frankly, I'm sick of it. And now we're on to the tech changes. We got Shadow King running a 53% win rate and an 11% play rate, going from a 2-2 to a 3-4. This is a massive nerf to Shadow King, and it's crazy because they're saying exactly what I expected. Their developer notes is saying that, like, listen, we weren't sure if we wanted to revert Shadow King back to a 2-2. Like, they weren't sure. They had a sample size of only a week or two, and Shadow King, I guess, wasn't seeing enough play, and then they brought it back to 2, and then they're like, yeah, you know what? The game is simply more fun if Shadow King is not a 2-2. This is fantastic for Destroy players. It's fantastic for Horde players because Shadow King destroys the Horde. It destroys Venoms. It destroys Deadpools. It destroys so much. Like, let's be honest. Shadow King's insane. It's also a really significant nerf to C2, which is popular. Yes, you can say, well, Alex, now it's C4. I guess, maybe, but C2 was an absolute incredible place for Shadow King. It was so good for Shadow King. Like, you basically would play and just negate everything they were doing there while also getting +6 on your Shadow King anyway. So it's kind of crazy what Shadow King was doing in Cerebro decks. So this is a very multifaceted nerf, which honestly I think is good. I think Shadow King did need to get changed. The game is largely more fun if, like, it's 2 people swinging for the fences. It feels like, I don't want to say the Marvel Snap feels fun when it's like a home run derby, but sometimes that is kind of enjoyable. There are important reasons why tech cards exist. I digress. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, when they're too prevalent and they're in your face too often and they're part of extremely high power shells like Shadow King C2, then it's just a little too much. And it makes sense to maybe get Shadow King on the sidelines here and see what he does as a 3-4 for an extended period of time. I believe you'll likely see a significant drop in meta share. It's definitely a worse card. There's no question it's a worse card. But we'll see. We'll see how Shadow King ends up, because we're not done with the tech changes. Mobius M Mobius, a 3-4 that changes into a 3-3. Same effect. The effect does not change, but Mobius M Mobius has been extremely popular. It's running a 53% win rate and 11% meta share. But this makes perfect sense. I mean, how many cards are you going to release that are energy cheating? Like, we have so much energy cheat out there that it makes sense that Mobius M Mobius is a great option for that. even just Surge. Like, Surge is enough of a reason to run Mobius M Mobius. You're not seeing as much Sarah as you used to, but Mobius M Mobius remains just a really good tech piece. It's a good card. I'm just going to throw it out there. Now that you've nerfed this, maybe consider making a Pixie a 1 cost. Maybe, I don't know. Just throwing it out there, make Pixie a 1 cost, see what happens. What's the worst that happens? You got to nerf everything? I guess that's... Pixie as a 1 cost might actually be OP. But Mobius M Mobius going from a 3-4 to a 3-3 is not a massive change. The effect is still significant, but it's enough of a nerf to maybe take it off people's radars a little bit and maybe give it a little bit of a timeout, which I think it probably needs at 11% meta share. And then finally, I love this change. Rogue going from a 3-2 to a 3-3. Do know that it wasn't that long ago that Rogue was a 3-1. This is a cube stealing card. You could steal Gores, you can steal Iron Man, you can steal whatever you want, except for non-on-reveal cards or non-ongoing cards, I guess. So you can't just steal whatever you want. I should correct that. But what I'm trying to say is with Rogue, you have the opportunity to swing board states like absolutely crazy. At a 3-1, she felt like an awful risk to try to play. As a 3-3, man, like this is a good card. It's a good card. Is it situational? Yes, it is situational. But Rogue is insane in those situations. It is the card that rips 8 cubes from your opponent's hands. I'm actually nervous about a 3-3 Rogue. If Rogue gains popularity, which it's going to, man, I don't know if I want to play many ongoing cards. But maybe I will anyways. Or maybe I'll play Rogue. Long story short, though, I do like this change a lot. Reduce the tech in like the Shadow King, reduce the tech in, the Mobius M Mobius, and add some more flavor with the likes of something like Rogue, who's largely been unplayed, but has an incredibly powerful ability. Time to talk about cards that no one played and have to get buffed. We got Firelord coming from a 4-6 to a 4-7, and everything else remains the same. I will tell you, though, Firelord has one of the coolest animations in the game, but this is a card that I've not been particularly driven to play. The only deck that I saw that was seeing any play at all was like the Dexter one. Dexter had a deck with Firelord, which is kind of cool, and you love gamers that cook. But largely, Firelord has seen absolutely no play. Now, we are getting some interesting kind of... we might be getting some support for like destroy, discard type stuff coming in the upcoming seasons. So maybe that's why they're preemptively being like, hey, let's give Firelord some love, and maybe people will have some cards they want to kind of interact with. Elixir is going to be probably a little more popular in the upcoming months if data mines remain the same as well. So like there's some interesting stuff coming. So Firelord's, I don't want to say Firelord's worth owning. I'm not going to say that. Firelord's not worth owning. Don't chase Firelord. But 4-7, that's not an insignificant buff. It's a buff. It's more power, and maybe you pull off some crazy garbage. I don't know, man. There's a Airwalker deck. There's people out there right now that don't even remember Airwalker exists. There's an Airwalker negative deck that's actually doing really well right now. Maybe it's a matter of time before someone cooks with a 4-7 Firelord, and you're going to be like, damn, not only do I need that animation, but I need the card too. But largely, I think what this was you're releasing so many cards in a season, and if a card doesn't shake enough of the meta, like it's just not going to see play. It's not worth the risk. And also, I'll tell you the honest truth, with so many cards being released and resources being what they are, it's not worth for a free-to-play player who might be a great chef of decks, a connoisseur of deck creation. It's not worth them rolling their tokens on Firelord. It's just not worth it because it's just too expensive, right? So at the end of the day, 4-6 to 4-7, nothing crazy, but perhaps we'll see some crazy stuff in the future. And we go to Warlock, 3-3 to a 3-4. I actually don't think this is enough. It's weird. It's weird because I actually do think that Warlock, first of all, his stats are crazy, but no one's really playing him. 38% win rate, that's absolutely garbage. But the problem with Warlock is that the primary deck you're seeing it played in, even when during the testing phases, was the She-Hulk based deck. And She-Hulk would take all these Warlock hits and then float its energy and effectively waste these procs. But if we can get some additional support, we might be able to do some cool stuff with the Warlock. I actually think that maybe we didn't cook enough with the Warlock. And Warlock might actually be a legitimately strong card. As a 3-4, I don't think he's like meta breaking, but like this floated energy style of play is fascinating and does have the potential to create some really lopsided plays, like truly lopsided plays. We saw that even with the She-Hulk stuff, even if it was wasting procs on floating on turn 5 or 6, like you're still able to do some absolutely crazy stuff with the Warlock, right? So I do think that Warlock's days are going to get brighter. I do think that this buff is less of a let's make Warlock OP, but more of like a maybe you should continue cooking with Warlock. Let's encourage more deck building around Warlock because maybe he's not quite as bad as first impressions would have indicated, but you know what? One extra power does help a lot because at 3-5, he's probably cracked, right? Like, I don't think he can be 3-5. 3-4 is probably the highest he can go with this effect. Maybe we just need to find a better place than She-Hulk and Evo to play him in. You know what I mean? maybe one of you guys will solve that equation. I would love to see a deck. Long story short, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of you guys. A little bit of a shorter OTA this week, but still a good one that is likely to have an impact on the meta. If you want to watch more Marvel Snap content, I got a video for you on the screen. Check it out. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Check to make sure that you are subscribed. I love you, and we'll see you on that next one.